gospel. I want to thank my father as well for volunteering for me for this opportunity. And, it was but like just like John said, at first it was kind of like a feeling of why me, like why was I chosen for such something that's holds so much responsibility. And like John, the more I did my due diligence and really reviewed everything that was going on, it was really something that I think I was really something that really suits my abilities. And I write a lot. Like oftentimes when I'm going through troubled times or when I just have a lot on my mind, like writing is a way to get that across or get that out. And I got an Invisalign in my mouth. That might be why it's a little hear a little less from my. But yeah, writing is a way that I'm able to get my thoughts out, and a lot of that I actually found came out when I was preparing for this today. So today I'll be discussing how to become an able man, and this was another interesting dynamic for me because just being 23, I'm still learning how to become an able man myself. So to be able to stand up here and tell other people how to become an able man was a little challenging for me at first. But I've been up here and spoke briefly before. Like, much like John said, I felt a sense of responsibility to reach back and help people, particularly young men who may have been in the shoes that I may have been in at one point, that I definitely was in at one point. Just to try to be that voice, and try to reach that one person that even if in a room full of people, if it's just one person, if only one person really came to what you had to say, it was worth it just for that one person. And so I started off by considering what an able man was. And like John, I looked up the word able and then the word man. And the word man has two definitions. It's a verb form and a noun form. Obviously, the noun form is the gender form, the male's gender. But the verb form, I found some pretty interesting things. The verb form means to operate, to be in charge, or to work. And being able is to be gifted or adept or competent. And you can really put any combination of those words together to kind of formulate a shallow definition of what an able man is. You can be an adept worker, or you can be a competent male, or you can be gifted, and because of your gifts, you're tasked with the responsibility to be in charge of something. Those are things that kind of contribute to just a shallow definition of what an able man is. When you try to reach deeper into it and look for a deeper meaning behind what an able man actually is and how to become one. I came up with this phrase a couple years ago when I was writing one day. And it's a 3-part sentence, and it's very simple. And I often find myself coming back to it pretty often. It's remember yesterday, seize today, and plan for tomorrow. Yeah. If you could find a balance in doing each one of those 3 things, that'll be on your fast course of how you begin to try to become an able man. So pretty much I'm going to be breaking down these 3 different parts of this saying to show how you can become an able man by doing these things. The first one is remember yesterday. Yeah. And in this church, we're often challenged to look at our history. I mean, just look at this mural behind us. On the words on the bottom of the table in this mural is the words know thyself. know who you are, know whose you are, and know where you come from. It will tell you what you're capable of doing in the future. We are survivors. I mean, really think about it. We are literally survivors, figuratively and literally. You are descendants, direct descendants of people who made it across the Middle Passage. Millions of Africans died and were tossed overboard, or just couldn't make the trip. They were forced to live amongst their own feces and disease, force-fed mush, and forced to live upon also run conditions that many people today wouldn't even be able to tolerate, even with the medicine we have. So you are literally survivors. One of my favorite people to read about when looking at Black history, he's on the wall here, is Marcus Garvey. One of my favorite people to read about is Marcus Garvey because he did so much in a time that doesn't even equate to what he should have been able to do in that time. You had a black man who was an immigrant from Jamaica, who traveled all the way to England to get his education, who came all the way back to America to do service for his people. He didn't want to just go to school to get a nice car or live in a nice house. He felt the responsibility to contribute back to the poor conditions of his people. This man was a bad man. Marcus Garvey owned a Black Star Line cruise line in a time where most of us wouldn't even be considered human beings. You're talking about the man who united more African Americans in the history of our country prior to that time. No one had done what he had done on that level. This was a time where you really put in perspective and you understand how big this was. Thousands of us were being lynched, losing our lives only to have these horrific scenes sent around the country as postcards with captions including applaudings for these lynchings. These lynchings weren't exclusive to black men falsely accused of rape, as most people would have you to think, to try to minimize the number of cases that occurred. Women were lynched, as well as children. This is all the time where he was able to accomplish as much as he did. The story of Mary Turner, some of you may have heard of it, some of you may not have. This is a very known lynching that occurred in 1918. A white plantation owner was killed by one of his workers. Of course, this is after the emancipation, so they were his workers at this point. But obviously in the dispute, he was killed by one of his workers. And in an effort to vindicate his killing, a mob went around and randomly killed 11 black men, supposedly to vindicate his murder. One of those black men was Mary Turner's husband. Mary Turner publicly opposed her husband's murder and threatened to have the members of the mob arrested. Mary Turner was 8 months pregnant, so you can imagine how she would have felt to have her husband killed by a mob when she was expecting a baby. She was taken from her home by a mob of several hundred, had her ankles tied, and was hung upside down from a tree, doused in gasoline and motor oil and set on fire. While still alive, a member of the mob split her abdomen open with a knife, and the unborn child fell to the ground, where it was stomped and crushed. Finally, her body was riddled with bullets. This is the era that Marcus Garvey owned several cruise ships, had a star line, and was able to transport and try to get his people to a better place, Africa for the Africans, to give us our own a sense of self-identity, to get us to believe that we had value and we had worth, contrary to what most believed at that time. This is a certain quality you can